Jeremy Clarkson just declared war on Keir Starmer, and it's getting messy. Right, grab your morning brew because Jeremy Clarkson has just lobbed the political equivalent of a hand grenade at number 10, and frankly, it's more explosive than his old Top Gear stunts. The man who once famously punched a producer over a sandwich has now set his sights on the Prime Minister, and let me tell you, Keir Starmer is definitely not getting a Christmas card from Diddley Squat Farm this year. Welcome back to UK Daily Coffee, where we serve up the day's hottest political drama with a side of reality. I'm your host, and if you're new here, buckle up because we don't do boring around these parts. We're diving headfirst into the countryside controversy that's got everyone talking, from Westminster to the local pub. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of why Britain's most famous farmer is seeing red, let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're Jeremy Clarkson, right? You've gone from driving supercars at ridiculous speeds to mucking about with sheep and dealing with government bureaucracy. It's like swapping a Ferrari for a tractor, except the tractor comes with more paperwork and significantly less glamour. And just when you think farming couldn't get any more stressful, along comes Bovine TB to absolutely ruin your week. But here's where it gets juicy. When asked about whether the Prime Minister is still banned from his pub, the farmer's dog, Clarkson didn't just confirm it, he went full nuclear. And I quote, "Oh God, yes. I hate very few people in life, but I do hate that man. He's awful. He's definitely banned. Blimey, that's not holding back, is it?" That's the kind of statement that makes you wonder if Starmer accidentally ran over Clarkson's favourite cow or something equally unforgivable. Now, you might be thinking, what's got Clarkson's wellies in such a twist? Well, it all comes down to one simple accusation that's got the farming community absolutely livid. According to our man Jeremy, Starmer is so flippant about farmers, and whenever you ask the PM about agricultural issues, his attitude is basically, well, who cares about them? That's like asking Gordon Ramsay what he thinks about microwave meals, you're just asking for trouble. The timing of this outburst couldn't be more perfectly dramatic either. Clarkson's Diddley Squat Farm has just been hit with Bovine TB, which means his entire operation is locked down for at least 2 months. Picture this, you're already dealing with the stress of running a farm, which, let's be honest, is like trying to juggle flaming torches while riding a unicycle, and then you get the news that your cows have failed their TB test. It's the agricultural equivalent of getting a parking ticket while your house is on fire. The former Top Gear host described the last 24 hours as awful, and honestly, you can hear the exhaustion in his voice. He explained how you become blasé about the 6-monthly cow tests because it's always been a hypothetical threat, until suddenly it isn't. Then the vet looks up and delivers those dreaded words, "I'm really sorry, this one's failed." That's farming life for you. 1 minute you're worried about the weather, the next minute you're dealing with a disease that could shut down your entire operation. But wait, it gets worse. As if dealing with Bovine TB wasn't enough of a nightmare, Clarkson woke up the next morning to find one of his puppies had died, and he's got a sickly calf to worry about. At this point, you've got to wonder if someone's put a curse on Diddley Squat Farm, because that's just Murphy's Law gone absolutely mental. Now, let's talk about this pub ban situation because it's actually quite brilliant when you think about it. Clarkson owns the Farmer's Dog, a pub that's become something of a pilgrimage site for his fans and supporters of rural Britain. By banning the Prime Minister, he's essentially created the most exclusive VIP list in the country, except instead of celebrities and wealthy donors, it's just one person who's definitely not welcome. It's like having a bouncer whose only job is to look out for the bloke who runs the country. The Bovine TB situation that's caused all this drama is actually a massive issue that's been plaguing British farming for decades. When cattle fail their TB test, they're classified as reactors and have to be isolated and then sent to slaughter. It's devastating for farmers, both financially and emotionally. These aren't just livestock numbers on a spreadsheet, they're animals that farmers have raised and cared for, and losing them is genuinely heartbreaking. The disease spreads from badgers to cattle and from cow to cow, which is why the government has been implementing badger culls for years, despite massive criticism from wildlife campaigners. It's one of those issues where everyone's trying to do the right thing, but nobody can agree on what that actually means. The farmers want to protect their livelihoods, the conservationists want to protect the badgers, and the government is stuck in the middle trying to please everyone while pleasing no one. Oxfordshire, where Clarkson's farm is located, sits in what's called an edge area for TB. Think of it as the agricultural equivalent of a buffer zone, sitting between high-risk and low-risk areas. Most herds in these areas get tested every 6 months, which means farmers are constantly living with this sword of Damocles hanging over their heads. According to IBTB, a mapping platform for the disease, there have been several cases in the area near Diddley Squat Farm recently, so Clarkson's situation isn't exactly unique. Here's where the politics gets really interesting though. The government has announced they won't be extending the badger cull and are committed to ending the practice before the next election. That sounds great on paper, but farmers like Clarkson are probably wondering what the alternative plan is. It's like saying you're going to stop using umbrellas but not having any other solution for staying dry in the rain. Environment Secretary Steve Reed has previously said he would consider his time in office a failure if he didn't improve profitability for farmers. That's quite a bold statement, and given the current inheritance tax controversy that's got farmers absolutely fuming, he's certainly set himself a challenging target. Reed has outlined plans for a 25-year farming roadmap and food strategy, which sounds impressive until you realize that most farmers are more concerned about getting through the next 25 days without going bankrupt. The government insists they're committed to supporting farmers, pointing to their £5 billion investment over the next 2 years, which they're calling the largest budget for sustainable food production in our country's history. That's a lot of money, but farmers are probably thinking that throwing cash at the problem isn't the same as actually understanding their day-to-day struggles. Then there's the inheritance tax issue that's really got the farming community's knickers in a twist. The government's reform means farmers will pay a reduced inheritance tax rate of 20% instead of the standard 40%, with payments spread over 10 years interest-free. On paper, that sounds reasonable, but for farming families who've worked the same land for generations, any inheritance tax feels like a betrayal of rural Britain. What makes this whole situation even more fascinating is the cultural divide it represents. On one side, you've got Jeremy Clarkson, who's become the unlikely voice of rural Britain despite spending most of his career reviewing cars and making politically incorrect jokes. On the other side, you've got Keir Starmer, a former human rights lawyer who probably knows more about European court procedures than he does about foot and mouth disease. It's like watching a battle between two completely different versions of Britain. Clarkson represents the practical, get-on-with-it mentality of rural communities who feel increasingly ignored by Westminster politicians. Starmer represents the urban, policy-focused approach that tends to see farming as just another sector to be managed rather than a way of life to be preserved. The irony here is delicious. Clarkson, who was once seen as the epitome of petrolhead culture and political incorrectness, has somehow become a champion of sustainable farming and rural values. Meanwhile, Starmer, who's supposed to represent the working class, is being accused of being out of touch with one of the most fundamental working-class occupations in the country. What's really telling is Clarkson's comment about Starmer being a flippant about farmers. That suggests it's not just about policy disagreements, it's about respect and understanding. Farmers don't necessarily expect politicians to agree with everything they want, but they do expect to be taken seriously. When you've got someone like Clarkson, who's normally quite diplomatic in his public statements, using words like hate and awful, you know something has really struck a nerve. The pub ban might seem like a silly publicity stunt, but it's actually quite a powerful symbolic gesture. Pubs have always been the heart of British communities, especially in rural areas. By banning the Prime Minister from his pub, Clarkson is essentially saying that Starmer isn't welcome in the rural community. It's a rejection that goes beyond politics and into the realm of cultural identity. This whole controversy also highlights the challenges facing modern farming in Britain. It's not just about bovine TB or inheritance tax, it's about an entire way of life that feels under threat. Farmers are dealing with climate change, Brexit-related trade issues, rising costs, complex regulations, and now diseases that can shut down their operations for months at a time. When politicians seem dismissive or out of touch, it adds insult to injury. The government's response to all this has been fairly predictable, pointing to their investment commitments and policy reforms. But there's a sense that they're missing the emotional and cultural aspects of the issue. It's not just about money and policies, it's about respect and understanding for a community that feels increasingly marginalized. As for what happens next, well, that's anyone's guess. Clarkson's farm will be locked down for at least 2 months while they deal with the TB outbreak, which gives him plenty of time to think about his grievances with the current government. Whether this controversy will have any lasting political impact remains to be seen, but it's certainly given rural communities a voice in a way that traditional farming organizations haven't managed to achieve. The beauty of this whole situation is that it perfectly encapsulates the state of British politics right now. You've got a celebrity farmer taking on the Prime Minister over issues that most urban voters probably don't fully understand, while the government tries to balance competing interests and limited resources. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's absolutely fascinating to watch unfold. So there you have it, the tale of how Jeremy Clarkson went from reviewing supercars to declaring war on Downing Street. Whether you think he's a hero standing up for rural Britain or just a celebrity having a tantrum, you can't deny that he's got people talking about farming issues in a way that dry policy debates never could. What do you think about this whole controversy? Is Clarkson right to be so critical of Starmer's approach to farming, or is this just political theatre? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button because we've got plenty more political drama brewing. Trust me, with the way things are going in British politics, there's never a shortage of material. Until next time, keep your coffee strong and your political opinions stronger.